ever been in a situation where you were violated or denied your rights, and some organizations just took up your case, champions that case, and without any cost or being connected to you? Have you ever wondered why these organizations or these people do the things that they do? Why are they so nice? Do you really know the reasons why they do what they do? Well, they are not 419s, neither are they magicians. They are most likely civil society organizations around you. And today we want to understand the workings of civil society organizations. Welcome to ChangeMakers Circle on Click Naija online channel. My name is Esther Hadiza Ijeaku. You can catch us on YouTube at Click Naija. So subscribe now to our channel so that you can see more beautiful content like this one. Listen to us via www.clicknaija.gov.ng and follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Click Naija 1. ChangeMakers Circle is coming to you in collaboration with Skill Hub Consulting, an organization that is dedicated to improving the performance of development practitioners and organizations to reach their full potentials in changing the world and making it a better place. And today, we need answers to understanding the workings of civil society organizations. In some places, they are being referred to as NGOs, that is non-governmental organizations. But are they the same? Are CSOs the same as NGOs? Can we really do without them in the society? Join me today as we explore the pivotal role of civil society organizations in Nigeria. And as we begin, here are a few tips that you need to know about civil society organizations in Nigeria.
Did you know that CSOs in Nigeria have contributed to landmark events like protesting and stopping tenure elongation and the advocacy for the passage of the Freedom of Information (FOI) bill into law? CSOs in many third world countries, especially Nigeria, came about as a result of dissatisfaction with state policies. As at 2020, Nigeria was the highest receiver of official development assistance inflows at over 3 billion naira. What do all these mean? You want to know more? Then keep watching.
Well, that's not all you need to know just yet. I have the CEO and principal consultant of Skill Hub Consulting right here with me in the studio to give us insights into the world of CSOs. Mrs. Esther Hadiza Ijeaku. Nice to have you with us in the studio.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So should I call you the CSO queen?
I dare not. But that is my constituency. I'm very interested in how well civil society organizations do because their work is tailored to serve society and to make the world a better place.
So what's this dream of Skill Hub Consulting?
Well, I would say simply Skill Hub Consulting is out to empower change. And we look at civil society organizations as organizations that are focused on bringing about all kinds of change, but we want them to thrive and we want them to perform well. Skill Hub Consulting is positioned to support and maybe provide consulting services as well to civil society organizations or NGOs.
So according to United Nations, CSOs include community-based organizations as well as non-governmental organizations. What does this mean? Like, it looks like a whole lot of grammar, that confusion, CSOs, NGOs. People just use them, anyhow, or interchangeably. Are they really interchangeable? Do they mean the same thing?
Well, I think it's just, like you said, all kinds of terms that we use to describe the same thing. But civil society organizations are basically, if you think of society, is divided into three. You have government, you have the business sector, and then you have the third sector, which is civil society. So these are organizations that are formed for the betterment of society, like having a cause or whatever. So civil society organizations include any organization that is not government and is not the business sector. Now, NGOs, NGOs are more tailored to do what we usually want to describe. So for CSOs, you look at even churches, mosques, your old girls association, community development organizations. These are all civil society organizations. But when you now talk about NGOs, we are talking about those ones that have a social, they are tailored to deliver social impact. So your typical non-governmental organization is part of the civil society. Do you get what I mean? So it's like a subset. All NGOs are civil society organizations, but not all civil society organizations can be called NGOs.
Okay, so the umbrella body is CSOs.
Yes.
Okay, so what are the roles of CSOs in Nigeria?
Generally, what they do is to better their society. They think of causes, so where there are gaps, for example, in governance or in development. And when I say development, I'm talking about maybe health issues, governance, themes, different themes. If you think SDG, for example, poverty, all the things that bother us as people that may not be addressed, or there are gaps that somebody wants to do something about. It usually starts from one person saying, oh, I can do something about persons with disability, and then you start working on it and end up having an organization to address that particular issue. So CSOs are there to make society better. Okay.
Are there different categories of CSOs? I mean, you already mentioned, okay, so we have the religious bodies and all that, but then away from the religious bodies, are there different categories or types of CSOs?
Of NGOs? Well, there are. So if you look at NGOs, there are those ones that are based in communities. So we call them community-based organizations. Okay. There are those ones that are faith-based. They call them FBOs. So there are faith-based organizations. There are networks. So for example, you may have a network of women organizations that are working on maybe constitutional reform, or you might have, there are different structures to it, but I think generally speaking, it's either you're working from a local level, national level, or it depends on how the membership is formed, like in networks or coalitions.
Those sound very big. Coalition.
Yes. So if they have something big that they want to deliver, so you have a coalition that is driving maybe the VAPLO, you know, they're trying to push for a particular thing across the whole country. Then you have a coalition or a network of organizations that come together and they're working on the same thing but in their own spaces.
So how important are CSOs in the scheme of things in Nigeria?
It's almost like saying we are working on what individuals want, but in a coordinated manner. So without CSOs, sometimes the citizens' voice may not be heard. They amplify the voice of the citizens. They also represent the citizens. So for example, if you have, we've gone through processes where laws are being, or bills are being presented, and civil society come there to talk about what they like about it, what they don't like about it. They are the voice of the common person on the street, and their role, I think, is critical in ensuring that we are all going to create a Nigeria that we all want.
It looks like there are CSOs who kind of like claim to be out there trying to answer the critical questions on the minds of people or find solutions, but then on the other hand, again, it looks as if they are really there for their own personal aims and purposes. Some people even think that they are there to cash out, to make money. you know. So what would be your comments on this?
I think it's interesting that in everything that we do, there are misconceptions. So for journalists, for example, there are misconceptions about the brown envelope. For the police, also, there are misconceptions about the checkpoints. In the same way, for civil society, there are misconceptions. People believe that, oh, you're there for the money. When I started working many years ago, if you just say you work for an NGO, they'll start shouting dollars, you know, that they expect that is why you are there. But actually, there will always be bad eggs. But I think the good overrules, or it's definitely more beneficial for us to have civil society organizations working than those few bad eggs that are there for all the wrong reasons.
But people are making money, and the dollars there, are they not?
Well, people are making money also in journalism, in everything,
in banking and finance, and I think that's another perception that people have, that because you are working in the charity sector, you should be a charity case. People that work in NGOs have children to feed, they have families to take care of, they have also things that they have to do. They go to the same market like everyone else. So I don't see it as something different. I just see it as a different career path and passion or interest, and they have to be paid to do what they do. It's a fact today that we have a lot of civil society organizations springing up, you know, all over the place, and they all have different agendas and all that. Is there a body that coordinates or monitors how these organizations come up, or their activities, you know? Yeah.
Well, yes and no. Every formal NGO, it must be registered with this CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission here in Nigeria. And interestingly, some years ago, I was doing some research on CSOs and in Nigeria, and I could not get the number of organizations registered in Nigeria. It's just not written anywhere, or you cannot get the data anywhere. Some years ago, also, we had the bill, the NGO bill, where some parties thought it would be a great idea to structure it in such a way that there's an umbrella body, you must be registered, you must be, and the civil society kicked against it. The idea is that we're all in a big sky. And the important thing is that we're contributing to development of our societies, and we should not be restricted to the point that you must be reporting and everything. But we already do that to the Corporate Affairs Commission. If you're registered in CAC, you also have to have your tax registration. CSOs now have to file taxes 4 times, I think, every year, for you to be on the good side of the law. We also provide information or data to the Bureau of Statistics. I think every year you tell them what programs you have implemented, how much has come in, and that's how come you have the ODA figures and things like that. So we report, but we are not restricted, or we are not under any compulsion to do anything by a particular body in Nigeria.
ChangeMakers Circle is being brought to you by Skill Hub Consulting.
Is it a good thing that there are a lot of CSOs springing up, or there's a possibility of it becoming a menace or something like that?
I think there are two. It's a yes and a no. It's fantastic that we have a lot of civil society organizations. What it means is that we have a lot of people with passion, that see gaps, that see issues that need to be addressed, and are willing to address those issues. The other side is that means we have a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and usually it's not positive. So even when you look at health, there are issues there that need to be addressed. Insecurity, there are issues there. Governance, there are issues there. Disability, inclusion, climate change, agric. There's so many. All you need to do is look in Nigeria. wahala no dey finish, you know. And in that case, civil society organizations a lot of times spring up. So I think they're being responsive, and it's a good thing to have a lot of civil society organizations in Nigeria.
As well, I know that there are places where you go to and the people think that you came to give relief, or you came to give your services, and the people are even expecting that you probably brought money. I'm sure you've had cases where people would even ask for money, like demand for money before you do anything.
Yes, so we cannot avoid the fact that there's a development economy of sorts. So when there's an issue, so for example, in the Northeast, where we had the insecurity, insurgency, a lot of humanitarian responders, organizations showed up in the Northeast, and what it meant is that a lot of resources were being expended, a lot of whether in cash, kind, whatever it is, was being flooded into the space, and people would then now have the impression that these NGOs, there's money inside NGOs, and all of that. The downside is that when you go to a community or you go to a place and you really don't have the resources, you just want to do your best, sometimes you don't get the cooperation of the community because they feel you've collected money, you don't want to spend it. You must bring money first, and then they don't give you access, or they don't give you cooperation and all of that. That's actually one of the reasons why we thought the ChangeMakers Circle would be a brilliant idea to help people understand better how to create an enabling environment that sometimes some CSOs, yes, they have the funding, but others may not have the funding, but allow them do their best.
And CSOs don't particularly step out to start intervening just because they have funding. They don't wait till they have funding before they start what they're doing.
Correct. Sometimes you have to have a proof of concept to say that this will work, or you need to find out what the issues are, have a better understanding, because resources are not unlimited. Even if you have funding, at least in the sector, I've worked for decades in this civil society sector, you don't have unlimited resources. You now ask, okay, where is the best place to invest this funding that we have that will give us the maximum results?
So you have competing
priorities.
My research shows me that there are less CSOs engaging in policy making and service delivery, and more in advocacy and capacity building. Would you have any reason as to why this is? Is it that they have more funding there, or it's easier to do?
Well, I don't know if it is easier to do, but it requires different competencies, right? And there's interest in whatever the organizations are interested in doing. Okay, so for example, even if you have interest in advocacy or policy, advocating for policy changes or laws, there's a limit to how many organizations can actually be at the forefront. So even if you are submitting memoranda to the National Assembly, you can do that maybe online, but you can't have all the organizations show up. They will not even let you in. You understand? So that's where the networks come in. That's where the coalitions come in. But the bottom, where there's space for you to actually do what you want to do when it comes to providing training, capacity building, and such activities, there's more room and everybody is able to function.
I asked that question about policy because really, at the end of the day, most of these cries and problems that CSOs, NGOs are trying to solve are hinging on policies, because even if you will keep intervening, but one policy can really change a whole lot of things. So I'm thinking there's a gap there that probably is not being looked at?
Well, you might think, I remember there was a time that everyone thought, oh, VAP law, once we have VAP law, we're set. Only to find out that now that we have the VAP law, the implementation is a whole different ball game. Awareness is a whole different thing. Even the attitudinal change, for people to change their attitudes around reporting violence against the person, is something that we need to work on.
Even reporting the fact that you were not, your right was denied in executing.
There's a culture of silence. There's a culture of silence, and just overcoming that, you need organizations to make people aware, to give that confidence that you can trust the system. You can, if you should report. Your reporting means that yes, you might be reporting somebody that you know, because you know abuse most times is perpetrated by somebody who knows the victim or the survivor. I don't think that having a policy is more important than anything else. Yes, it gives us a framework and it gives us something that we can go back to, but there's so much work that can be done. And the policy might be there, but it's just sitting in a drawer, or it's just there for us to know, and we're not really implementing it or using it.
So what is Skill Hub bringing to the table to impact civil society organizations in Nigeria? Because we can see that there is so much to be done from our organization.
So for us in Skill Hub Consulting, we're very interested in how CSOs go about their work. So it's not enough to have a passion. Passion is good, but is it enough? I may be passionate about feeding 1 million people, but I cannot feed them based on what I have, right? So in terms of the organizations, it's about structure. The CSOs having structure, being able to demonstrate impact, to be able to prioritize, to be visible, to be seen. Because sometimes you may be working and nobody knows that you're working. I've done a lot of trainings, and I ask people working in different organizations that, do you feel like people know what you do? And the truth is that they don't think people really know what they do. They don't put it out there. So of course people are going to think that you are just there for the money. If nobody knows your impact stories, you're not telling your success stories, you're not even telling your challenges. Sometimes people just need to know the challenges that you face for them to appreciate the value of what you bring to the table. So Skill Hub Consulting is all about empowering change, about helping them perform better and making sure that they are sustainable, because a lot of organizations are just a few months away from closing down. If there is no donor funding, then what do you do? A lot of them closed during COVID, but now we're looking at, okay, so how can you ensure that you don't close? How can you position yourself to perform and to demonstrate that you are performing excellently in the area?
You know, a lot of people, you know, get this thing like about on social media. You fed 3 people. You're feeding the people and you are feeding them with a camera. Once you have a camera, you know, in front of you, you are not doing it anymore. You know, so it can really place a whole lot of like moral demand on people, and I can see that maybe backpedal and not post what they should post. So not having the right kind of knowledge. How should people handle that back and forth?
I think it's a dilemma, and you can't win. But the one thing that I always tell people that work in NGOs is that you have to let people know what you're doing. Even now, if you didn't know me, if I just gave you my name, the first thing you will do is check me out online. Isn't it? Yeah. You check and find whatever has been said about me, or whatever information is out there. People get jobs, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be within this sector. Just from people searching them online. And that's the first place. A lot of funding comes from international sources. So how will people know what you do if it is not posted online? But that said, I mean, there are tasteful ways of doing it. And then also something like feeding is just your activity. How have you changed the life for the better? I think is more interesting, and telling the success stories of how lives are impacted for the longer term really makes a difference. But it's a dilemma, I agree. But better to be visible and a bit misunderstood than invisible and still being misunderstood.
I feel like the real issue here is still a skill thing, because it's knowing how to do this, how to be visible. So off the top of your head, and you were to mention 5 really important skills that practitioners need to have, and that Skill Hub can offer, or that you have jumped onto to work in this field with, what would they be?
There's so many. Professionally, I'm a project manager, and a lot of the things that we do are around projects. I think it's critical to be able to have some skills around project management and organizing and structuring, even if it is having processes or systems in place within your organization, so that you are not tied to it. There are some CSOs that if the CEO or the executive director is not there, nothing can happen, and it shouldn't really be so. Another thing is communication. Communicating not just verbally, but also online, your documentation, being able to speak about what you do. It's unfortunate that some very, very good projects get cut off, or don't get to continue, just because people don't know how to tell their stories very well. Meanwhile, some that should be shot in the head continue, because the people know how to package and to write their stories. So I think communication, fundraising, how do you attract resources and partnerships that will benefit you and get you to do more of what you want to do. As Skill Hub, we also consult, so we provide training. We do retreats. Sometimes it's even the enabling environment, because I hate to say, but typically we'll say Nigerian business, there's a way we treat our staff. But in civil society, you can't do that, because you have to show that you are practicing, there are good practices within your organization. So
to your funders.
Perfect. So is there inclusion within your organization? Are you taking care of your staff, the welfare of your staff? Is there a toxic environment? There are key, boxes you need to tick, and not just for ticking sake, by practice. So we talk about those things. Aside consulting, also we do some research. So we research, and then, like, more recently we've done trainings online that people can learn key skills, so like report writing, policies. We have helped organizations that didn't have policy. You don't have your employee policy, you don't have finance policy, you don't have all those things that, in fact, before you get any funding at all, they will ask you to attach those documents. So it's not just enough to have passion. Passion is good, but it's not enough. You have to have structure, you have to have systems, you have to be able to document or demonstrate your competency in getting the job done, and that's where Skill Hub comes in.
All right, it's been awesome speaking with you today on ChangeMakers Circle on Click Niger online channel. I've been talking with Mrs. Esther Hadiza Ijeaku. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.